So today we're going to be talking about Florence Nightingale. Florence was named after the town of her birth, Florence, Italy. However, she grew up in Derbyshire in the English countryside. She was born to an upper middle class family, and her father taught Florence and her sister Parthenope in classics, modern language, and philosophy. Florence loved to collect and organize data and found a talent in mathematics, science, when she was a child. The Nightingale family took a trip to Europe to educate and refine their daughters, a common custom of this time. Florence's love for math was unusual for women at the time, and her mother didn't approve of her continuation of education in mathematics. However, Florence said that she was called by God to do his service.
Florence decided that she wanted to be a nurse despite her family's disapproval.
After awful conditions of the Crimean War took over, Sidney Herbert, Secretary of State of War, called upon Florence and asked her to take the nurses to a hospital in Turkey. This was an incredible breakthrough, as this was the first time women were allowed to serve in the military. When she arrived at the hospital, conditions were atrocious, and she made all the nurses clean and take care of the soldiers, making sure that they were fed and properly clothed. This is the first time that the soldiers were treated well in war conditions.
Although Florence improved the hospital conditions immensely, death tolls were still rising significantly. A sanitary commission was sent out to inspect the hospital, and it was found that it was built on a sewer. Hospitals were forced to be flushed out and for ventilation to be increased. This effort alone led death tolls to fall.
Florence's fame hit a high point when a portrait of her with a lamp checking on patients was put out in the news. This is where she became known as the Lady of the Lamp. Her success was celebrated by both the press and the public to the point where Florence became a celebrity. Not wanting to take the fame, Florence took a pseudo name called Miss Smith.
Eventually, Florence was allowed to meet with one of her biggest fans, Queen Victoria, and with her help, she got to perform a royal commission into the health of the army. With this, she made the discovery that roughly 15,000 deaths were caused by preventable disease. Florence used her talents in statistics and communication to create a rose diagram. Which was easy to understand for the public, showing the improvement that followed the Sanitary Commission.
Eventually, in 1859, Florence published 2 books called Notes of Nursing and Notes on Hospitals. Florence was honored by having a nursing school named after her located in St. Thomas Hospital. Florence did an incredible job of making a name for women in healthcare and the army, as well as making improvements in hospitals' sanitary conditions. She continued to use her talents even while she fought an awful illness. It is thought that Florence came down with something in Crimea. However, she was still working and improving Britain's healthcare by analyzing statistics, even while she was crippling with sickness in her bed.
Although Florence was wealthy and could afford private healthcare, she understood that many were not as fortunate as her. She aimed to educate others so that they could help take care of their neighbors and their relatives when they were sick.
Florence died at the age of 90. However, before her death, Florence became the first woman to receive an Order of Merit. This order is used to recognize service in the armed forces, arts, science, and literature.
Thanks for listening to our video. Hope you enjoyed it and learned a lot on Florence Nightingale.
Because we sure did.